You ever feel that really strange modern feeling of being more connected to people than ever, and yet at the same time somehow feeling completely alone? Yeah, we share moments, but we kind of dodge the definitions. We text good morning, but there's no real commitment. Well, we're about to dive deep into the phenomenon that is quietly but fundamentally reshaping modern love.
So, what are we actually talking about here? It's called a situationship. And it's that gray area, right? You're not quite friends, but you're not fully partners either. You have all that emotional intimacy, the physical closeness is there, but the whole thing just exists in this intentionally undefined space. No labels, no clear future, it's just a situation.
And listen, this is not just some niche trend. It's a massive cultural shift. You see it everywhere, from TikTok trends to late night talks with your friends. So the real question is why? Why is this almost relationship becoming the new normal for so many people? That's exactly what we're going to unpack. Okay, to really get the situationship, we have to understand the world that created it. This thing didn't just appear out of thin air. No way. It's the result of what you could call a perfect storm of historical, technological, and social forces that have been brewing for a long, long time. So to see how we got here, we got to look back. For most of human history, partnerships were about survival, about making alliances. Pretty practical stuff. Then, in the 19th century, boom, romance becomes the big ideal. The 20th century, well, that brought us choice. But the 21st century, oh man, that's when choice just exploded into sheer, overwhelming abundance. And this slide lays out the chain reaction perfectly. It starts with technology, specifically dating apps, giving us what feels like endless choice. That choice quickly turns into overwhelming abundance. And what happens when you have too many options? You start comparing. You're constantly wondering, is there someone better just one more swipe away? That comparison leads to hesitation. And that hesitation, well, that's the fertile ground where the situationship was born. But look, it's not just about the external stuff like technology and history. That's only half the story. We also have to look inward at the psychology of what this new dating landscape is actually doing to our brains and to our hearts. Now, what's really fascinating here is how this whole thing highlights the gamification of love. Seriously, dating apps are designed like slot machines in Vegas. That swipe, that match, that little notification buzz, every single one gives your brain a little hit of dopamine. It's a reward loop that makes deep emotional investment compete with the constant, shiny thrill of endless possibility. And this is exactly why the same situationship can feel completely different to two different people. If you have what's called an anxious attachment style, you crave clarity. Ambiguity feels like a threat. It's terrifying. But for someone with an avoidance style who fears vulnerability, that same lack of definition can actually feel like a safe harbor. It gives them connection, but without the accountability. This quote just nails it. It gets right to the heart of what psychologists call the paradox of choice. You'd think that having more options would lead to more satisfaction, right? But the research shows it often leads to anxiety and paralysis. When the dating pool seems infinite, the weight of choosing just one person can feel immense. So, what is this all really about? Let's get to the core of it. Are situationships a sign of modern freedom and flexibility? A way of rejecting old, rigid timelines? Or are they something else entirely? Maybe a reflection of a deep collective fear? First, let's just talk about the economic reality. It's a huge piece of the puzzle. A lot of young adults today just feel financially unprepared for those major life commitments. I mean, with soaring housing costs, crippling student debt, an unstable job market, marriage is seen less as a starting point and more like a capstone achievement you get to when you have everything else figured out. So the situationship becomes a practical compromise. You get emotional companionship without the financial entanglement. And at the very same time, gender dynamics have been completely transformed. Now, with both partners often prioritizing their own ambition and autonomy, you get all these new, complex questions. Whose career takes priority? Who moves for who? The situationship offers a way to connect and build intimacy without needing to have those really difficult long-term negotiations right off the bat. So what you have here are two very valid ways to see this whole thing. On one hand, it's about empowerment. It's about exploring connections without all the pressure and maintaining your personal autonomy. But on the other hand, man, it can be a source of deep anxiety. It can lead to confusion, imbalanced emotional investment, and a real lack of accountability. And the wild part is, both of these truths can exist at the exact same time. Okay, so if we're living in this world of ambiguity, what's the path forward? Where do we go from here? This brings us to our final section, trying to understand what it really means to choose in this modern age. When you look at decades of relationship science, the data is incredibly consistent. It's not really the label itself, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, that creates stability. It's alignment, it's mutual commitment, and having clear expectations. That's what the strongest predictors of long-term satisfaction and emotional security are. And this really is the biggest takeaway of all. The situationship isn't the problem. It's a mirror. It's just a reflection of the incredibly complex world we're all trying to navigate. A world filled with economic anxiety, the paradox of infinite choice, and this powerful, modern desire for our own personal autonomy. What's required of us has changed. In the past, courage might have meant going out and finding someone. But today, in a world of endless options, the real act of courage isn't swiping or matching. It's the courage to actually define. The courage to say, this is what we are, and to stand for something real. And that leaves us with one final, vital question. And honestly, it's not just about relationships. It's about how we live our entire lives. In a world that is constantly telling us to keep our options open forever, what does it truly mean to close a door, to focus, and to wholeheartedly choose?